Through EvalStories, an initiative launched by Eval partners in partnership with Universalia, we have asked evaluation leaders from different geographical regions, organizations, languages and cultures to share their views on what should be the priorities for the global evaluation community in the next 4 years.
This is a wonderful opportunity to be part of the 2015 International Year of Evaluation. And it's a good opportunity for reflection, I think not just for myself, but for everyone in the evaluation community about where the field has been and where it can go and perhaps where it should be going.
The first lesson is that evaluation should respect the principle of national ownership. Namely, that evaluation should be embedded into a national process for achieving development results. If that is achieved, a greater sense of utility would be gained by the conduct of evaluation. The second lesson is that evaluation should be independent, namely to avoid conflict of interest. That means that an evaluation team should not have been engaged into the design or implementation of any intervention that is going to be evaluated. And the third aspect is that evaluations need to identify the explaining factors, namely why an intervention succeeded or why an intervention did not achieve the expected results. The explaining factors will be achieved if you have a clear and solid theoretical framework to understand the development initiative that is being evaluated.
I think that one of the most important factors in that, what I have learned, is that you have to be very transparent as an evaluator. It means that you have to be very transparent in setting your evaluation questions and what you are evaluating, open about your approaches and methodologies and the data you use and the data you decide not to use and so forth. It's also very useful to engage stakeholders at an early stage through mechanisms such as reference groups, to review papers and to get their inputs and to report on progress. So it shouldn't be only in the beginning of the evaluation and at the very end, but throughout the evaluation.
It's important to make the evaluation user-friendly, so that the commissioners of the evaluation can use it.
Fundamentally, the main reason is that there's a lack of demand for evaluation information in planning and also in budgeting. Secondly, the ability to do evaluation, capacity to do evaluation was a major problem, and we had to deal with that because there need to be continuous capacity building. Thirdly was the availability of data to do evaluation. Evaluation was planned and then only we are looking for data, and as a result of that, very often the evaluations done did not bring up the type of problems that we needed to resolve.
And I think one of the big challenges and lessons is for evaluation practice is how to move from a context where evaluation is seen to be really part of the donor package, part of the foreign assistance or external assistance, and how can it become something which is really part and parcel of national, institutional behavior, part of the process of good governance within a country. This will then help us to really build a degree of ownership around evaluation. It won't be seen as some external imposition, which is to really show what was done with a certain financing in the context around a narrow interpretation of accountability, but it will be much more part of the national processes of policy formulation, of planning, of delivery, of evaluation, and of the good stewardship, the good management of resources in countries. And I think that benefits everybody. And it has its learning dimension and it has the accountability dimension.
Ce dont je me rends compte, c'est que l'on a élargi énormément le champ de méthodologie pour la collecte de données.
That evaluation has a strong technical component that's built on social science research. The lesson I learned is that that's probably not enough. that social science research is a necessary part of the evaluation enterprise, but there are many other parts of the evaluation enterprise as well. If we stay at the supply side, not only do evaluators have to be good methodologists, but they need to understand what are answerable questions in relatively short amounts of time. They also need to understand the nature of the evaluation enterprise, which is the notion that evaluations are made to challenge and learn about what is happening, so that we can make and change projects, programs, policies, organizations, and help them move into better states.
Non seulement on n'évalue pas, mais bon, on mettait l'accent beaucoup plus sur le contrôle, sur l'audit, sur l'inspection. Et justement, le fait de privilégier ces domaines qui sont voisins de l'évaluation a suscité généralement une certaine peur de l'évaluation au niveau de certains publics. Dès que vous parlez d'évaluation, les gens ne pensent qu'à l'audit ou bien au contrôle ou à l'inspection.
For me, the most significant challenges that derive from the SDGs and the climate change agenda for evaluation are threefold. One is the dynamic nature of the development challenges. This means that the development community has to embed evaluative thinking into their day-to-day discussions and actions. For evaluation, it means that we need to understand how do we assess this type of adaptation and changing objectives. The second one is about the nonlinearity of development effects. At the moment, we're working from a logical framework, results chain model that is entirely linear. We know by now that development does not happen in that way. We have to develop new tools to capture what are these multidirectional effects of interventions. Thirdly, embedded in the SDGs are actually incredible tensions between the goals. These will require that policymakers, decision makers, grapple with them and figure out how are they going to balance between these different goals and priorities. For evaluation, we will have to be able to assess whether and how these choices were made. Were these good choices, and do they lead to better development outcomes?
The great diversity of people around the world, the great diversity of cultures and societies and political systems and economic systems calls our attention to the need for diverse methods, diverse models, diverse approaches. And over the years, evaluation has become increasingly diverse in response to the diversity of humankind and the global nature of our diverse community. In the book I did on utilization-focused evaluation, I identified and discussed over 100 different kinds of evaluation, different models, different approaches. And we continue to create new ways of doing evaluation in response to new challenges.
I think there's going to be huge changes in evaluation over the next 5 years. The sector is growing very fast. There's new tools being developed. There's a lot of new people entering the sector, and there's a lot of interest from governments. The question is how to make sure that that happens in a way that's to the best benefit of everybody. I think it's dangerous to focus on any one topic, because the whole value of evaluation is that it should be embedded across all projects, all activities, all sectors.
And although it might sound as a déjà vu, the discourse on methodological plurality is very important as we realize more and more that there is no silver bullet or not a single golden standard through which we should be operating, and hence we should be open to innovation and to different approaches to evaluation.
Je dirais donc qu'il faut peut-être porter plus d'attention aux méthodologies qui nous font donner du sens aux données.
Evaluators must review if existing methods and principles of impact evaluation are robust enough for assessing the impact of development policies on intra and intergenerational equity on one hand and environmental sustainability on the other.
In the past time, we used to talk about formative, summative evaluation, but actually new concepts appear such as process evaluation, policy evaluation, and so on. Several tools have been established from logical framework to sophisticated outcome measures framework to serve as conceptual model for development of standards and to design tools for collecting and displaying information in monitoring and evaluation system.
The future I see of evaluation is not only that it's seen as a separate function, but a much more integrated function. And again, we know that a feedback mechanism in organizations is the accounting function. Increasingly now we see organizations having separate risk management functions, which are feedback on their portfolio and the risks that their portfolios have. Evaluations are another feedback mechanism that organizations employ. So organizations employ a variety of feedback mechanisms, and I see the future evaluation as being part of that and part of trying to integrate and to collaborate with those other feedback mechanisms.
Concerning the professionalization of evaluation, there is a good job to do.
I think that probably one of the most important things for evaluation is going to be professionalizing evaluators. What will we choose to do? Will we look for an accreditation? Will we look for credentialing or standardizing or working with ISO standards in evaluation? There's a lot of different paths that we can take. But there is a concerted effort worldwide now to look at this and to decide what sorts of models we might adopt for the profession.
Развитие профессионализма, развитие потенциала, повышение потенциала оценки, развитие методики оценки, усовершенствование этой методики, а самое главное, внедрение оценки как универсального инструмента улучшения качества, результативности, политик, программ, принятых решений – это те самые главные уроки, которые следует вынести из карьеры experta по оценке.
C'est que la fonction d'évaluation n'a pas encore toute la reconnaissance qu'elle devrait avoir, et en ce sens-là, il serait important que l'on puisse accorder à l'évaluation la place qu'elle mérite au sein de tous les outils d'appréciation qui existent.
While the supply side is a necessary condition, probably the most important part of evaluation is the demand side, and that's a side that we pay very little attention to. People need to first know how to commission evaluations and what is evaluable, and the second thing they have to do is know when an evaluation provides the evidence necessary to help them make decisions or make changes in the program. We've paid relatively little attention to the demand side over the last little while, and this is a critical aspect of an evaluation enterprise.
Le plus important pour moi, il faudrait qu'on amène le gouvernement à utiliser les résultats de l'évaluation. Parce que rien ne sert de faire des évaluations et puis de ranger les rapports dans les tiroirs.
And then finally there is effectiveness of evaluation itself. For the last 15-30 years that I've been working in this field, evaluation was simply seen as something good, desirable. We have now reached the stage where people are asking, what's the value for money of evaluation? They want to know what changes as a result of evaluation. We have to become mindful of that, build that into the evaluation design, and be able to measure it at the end and after the evaluation is completed.
Un deuxième exemple d'item pour notre agenda, ce serait de pouvoir beaucoup mieux comprendre comment favoriser l'usage que vont faire les décideurs, les bailleurs ou les autres intervenants des résultats de l'évaluation ou des évaluations qui ont été faites.
Pour moi, la priorité est de mettre l'accent d'abord sur le renforcement des capacités. Parce que si les capacités ne sont pas renforcées, nous ne pouvons pas répondre au rendez-vous de l'évaluation dans les 5 prochaines années. Donc, il faudrait développer la formation, qu'il s'agisse de formation diplômante ou de formation qualifiante, n'est-ce pas? Qu'il s'agisse du côté de l'offre ou de la demande, ou de ceux qui s'occupent de plaidoyer, à mon avis, il faudrait procéder nécessairement au renforcement des capacités.
So participant voice needs to be bolstered in ways such as mobile surveys, in ways such as sustainability evaluation, impact evaluation, really getting down to the field level where the rubber hits the road. Evaluation capacity, especially internationally, has been greatly helped by the VOPES, by the international evaluation, capacity building. It's just really been enormously great to watch that, because countries best will use data when they've been evaluating their own projects and have a great amount of people understanding how evaluation works and what it entails.
The priorities for the year 2016 to 2020 should be to ensure that evaluations of development interventions have social equity and gender equality, focus to serve and support the global agenda for sustainable development. This will require considerable advocacy action and capacity development at various levels. High quality evaluations need to be mainstreamed into the national development planning and need to be guided by effective evaluation policies. Cultural context should be in focus while designing evaluations. This will require new methodologies suiting to varying cultures and applicable in resource scarcity situations. Networking at various levels can meet the goal of development and evaluations.
Et à mon sens, le rôle d'Eval Partner serait d'aider et de plaider en faveur de renforcement des capacités qui serait également adapté aux besoins des pays.
Research institutes, universities must be associated to better enhance the capacity of youth and mainly emerging evaluators.
Another priority, I think, for the next few years is the whole issue of young people and youth in this continent. It is a very major issue at every level. I think it's important within the evaluation profession that we give attention to emerging or young evaluators to try to build a cohort of young people who have had the experience, the hands-on experience of working with seasoned and experienced evaluators to gain that insight and that understanding that you can't get from the formal training. Evaluation is a very applied area, and you learn evaluation to a large extent in actually doing it. It's a very difficult task with a lot of maturity and a lot of judgment is needed to navigate the enormous amount of documentation, information, detail and so on that you have to deal with in order to come out with useful conclusions. So I think we have to invest in the young evaluators and find ways of mentoring and helping them to gain experience.
Evaluation can be strengthened through a concerted action to pave grounds or create an enabling environment for bringing new or emerging evaluators on board in order to mitigate the risk of becoming, of the profession becoming a closed circle or in the hands of an elitist few.
Some of the topics that should gain most attention is gender-sensitive evaluations for inclusion of the most vulnerable.
Equity focus in gender-responsive evaluation. Why? Because it is cross-cutting and it is highly essential, and it is a lens that is useful in almost every evaluation to be used and viewed in terms of depicting the true and fair view of the situation we're looking at.
Perhaps the other issue, which I think is now becoming more apparent in much of the literature, and I would endorse this very much, is to give more attention to issues of equity, to the broad access of populations to the various programs and projects which are planned. There's an increasing reality, I think, of societies developing at two different speeds, of a minority which are able to cope and manage and take advantage of certain aspects of globalization, modernization, urbanization, whatever you want to call it, and a population which is left to one side. And I think one of the aspects of evaluation I like, which I hear when I go to American Evaluation Associations, some other meetings, is that the role of the evaluator is to try to give a voice to everyone, not just the key stakeholder, the funder or the commissioner, but to give the voice to everyone. It's a very powerful, I think, notion.
One of the issues we also need to think about is the interface between human and natural resource systems. I don't think we've done a very good job of not only reflecting but integrating this interface into our work as evaluators.
So when we evaluate, we can't just look into individual projects and see whether they did what they were set out to do and produce the outputs that they were set out to produce, but we will have to think about whether they are actually making a difference to the environment that we are trying to save.
I would like to see the evaluators focusing so much on peace building evaluation, and this is a very important area that evaluators can advocate and promote peace building and security.
I think there's going to be a gradual increase in the emphasis on the importance of participatory evaluation, of ways of giving voice to a much wider range of groups affected by development programs, and particularly making sure that the voices of the most vulnerable groups are heard. This is very often a challenge. It doesn't fit very well into a lot of development planning strategies.
Now, for me, the most significant lesson that I've learned over time is that relationships hold the key to unlocking the power of evaluation for social betterment. And we've known this for quite some time, and it's something that came up. Michael Patton referred to the personal factor so many years ago. I think this kind of thing is essential as we move forward.
And many people take many steps along with you forward. I have also learned from this event that participatory approach is extremely important in all walks of life, including evaluations.
One of the biggest lessons learned in my career has been how to best magnify the power of participatory voice. In doing both final evaluations and now post-project evaluations, it's really looking at how do we distill from the extraordinary lessons that people can tell us about in their communities, with national partners, with ministers and so forth. What are the lessons, and how can we magnify them and be skillful in how we present them, so that we can really learn what is most valuable about any of our projects, what was least valuable, what we need to do differently, and most currently, what has been most sustainable about our programs, and how do we do more of that, and of what wasn't sustainable, why wasn't it sustainable. And we can only really do that by getting to our final rubber hits the road participants.
Development evaluation is changing. It is changing by the participation of new development actors, including the foundations and more prominently the private sector. Therefore, evaluation will need to change to adjust to the demands of these new stakeholders. Evaluation would need to be conducted faster, with more rigorous methods, and taking the voice of the beneficiaries more into account. And within the beneficiaries, the voices of the youth and the voices of the women have particular importance. How the traditional evaluation methods adjust themselves to better capture those voices is one of the biggest challenges for the evaluation community in the forthcoming years.
And the culture needs to be one of learning. People need to understand the learning nature of evaluation and see evaluations as feedback into a system that's trying to improve and change. Having an evaluative culture is also a very critical part of the evaluation enterprise, and one that needs to be put at the head of an agenda of the evaluation enterprise.
Et par culture d'imputabilité, je crois qu'il ne faut pas vraiment mélanger cela avec la culture d'évaluation. Alors, la société civile joue un rôle primordial pour améliorer la reddition des comptes des décideurs, et en ce sens, EvalPartner et tous ses membres doivent poursuivre leurs activités. Cependant, ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que les décideurs ont besoin d'outils de feedback afin de prendre les décisions, et l'évaluation n'est qu'un outil de feedback parmi d'autres. De sorte que créer ou parler d'une culture d'évaluation est un peu restrictif. Il faut créer une culture de l'imputabilité et réfléchir en quoi cela peut consister pour chaque pays.
The thing would be to make evaluation everybody's business, in the sense that evaluators are only one element in the evaluation value chain, if I may say, and hence notions like use, like national evaluation capacity, like national evaluation systems, like embedding evaluation and policy and decision making are as important as having competent evaluators on the scene.
First, I want to deal with probably the most difficult one, and that is values. We have been seeing a great commitment to measurement, whether it's policymakers, whether it's program leaders, evaluators, obviously. That is a great thing. One thing that we haven't looked at is that measurement, evaluation, embeds something about values. We are assuming that we're sharing values and that they're all the same. But in a world that is going to be more inclusive, we have to think about different value systems. And this requires that somebody, and I think evaluation and evaluators would be a great group to lead the fore, to start opening up that conversation. This is even more important when we think about issues of, say, gender equality or diverse people who have diverse value systems.
I think that we also have to engage on the basis of the values that this knowledge that we're contributing are. What are these underlying values? And they are largely writ, at least in my mind, what we could call democratic values. They are the values that underlie gender equality. They are the values that underlie human rights. They are the values that underlie equity. And these are, by nature, political issues. And it is very difficult individually as evaluators to interact, particularly for those of us who are consultants, with our commissioners specifically on those issues, at least in such a way that you can hope to begin to change the way in which institutions politically conceive of and use evaluation.
The biggest lessons I've learned in my evaluation career are that evaluation is about people, that it's about use, and that it entails a good dose of humility. It's about people because we don't evaluate as a cerebral exercise. We evaluate to change lives. We evaluate to make things better. We evaluate to learn. About use, because the best evaluation in the world would remain not necessarily in its proper context if it's not used, if it's not put forward to change lives. and about utility, humility, is because it's a try out, I want to see what other questions are. Evaluation is not about inputs and outputs. Evaluation is about people and about the profound transformation that development is bringing in the life of these people. The second one is about complexity. Linear models look good on paper, but reality is more challenging, more complex, and more instructive than the linear models that we find in front of us. And last but not least, evaluation is about learning and not only about accountability. The constant chase of success that we often see in the development world overshadows the learning dimension that is often derived from failure. And hence, evaluation has to be really open and embraces success, failure, learning, accountability, and many other things.
And context continues to matter and will matter more and more. It seems to me the challenge is not only to do evaluation in particular context and to get better at that, be more adaptable to contextual diversity, but in fact to also become a global evaluation community that is able to deal with, address, and evaluate global issues, climate change, global sustainability, global human rights issues. The future of our profession is linked to the future issues that we as an international community need to address. Peace and conflict resolution, the well-being of people in poverty and poverty alleviation around the globe. These are no longer just national issues or local issues, they are global issues. And so we as a global community need to develop global responses and have a vision of evaluation that evaluators around the world can come together and coordinate efforts to evaluate interventions and efforts at taking on these global issues.
Likely, Eval partners, led by IOC and UN Women, declared 2015 as International Year of Evaluation. The International Year of Evaluation, a bottom-up global movement recognized by the UN General Assembly and the UN Secretary General, stimulated an inclusive and participatory process to debate how to address the challenges I mentioned earlier. This is happening through online consultation and 71 events around the world, all linked by the passing of the famous evaluation torch. It will culminate by launching the Global Evaluation Agenda for 2016-2020 at the Eval Partner Global Evaluation Week to be held at the Parliament of Nepal in November.
One of the ways that evaluation can be strengthened is through movements like this wonderful initiative of the Evaluation Year, which has placed the field of evaluation on the global table and has made people wonder and investigate what evaluation actually is.
Evalu really helps to raise the profile of evaluation, get a better understanding not only amongst practitioners but also commissioners of evaluation, so that that will raise the bar for evaluation across the world. It will also hopefully generate more understanding of the value that performance assessment can really bring to getting better.
Cette année sera un grand moment de plaidoyer. Plaidoyer pour influencer les processus nationaux en matière non seulement de formulation des politiques publiques, mais d'évaluation également.
And I think advocacy role is quite important in the sense that we don't want to preach to the converted, but we want to bring to our side the people who use evaluations, the policy makers, but also regular people all over the world who will understand that they can use and demand evaluation for accountability purposes, to hold the people who are representing them and doing projects and programs and policies and strategies on their behalf, that they are accountable.
2015 is an important year for the development community. It marks the end of the Millennium Development Goals and the beginning of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it also is the International Year for Evaluation. This movement of the International Year of Evaluation has helped to raise awareness about the importance of evaluation, development evaluation. This awareness has put together members of the evaluation community in many countries, more than 100 countries around the world, which is very positive. But it also creates a new market, a market for evaluation in which competition is getting tougher, competition for quality evaluations, for more rigorous assessment, and for better use of evaluation.
EvalYear is a good initiative that creates a great enabling environment to advocate and promote evaluation and evidence-based policies making at international, regional, national and local levels.
And I think also the final advantage from the evaluation year, in a sense, is the visibility that it gives to evaluation where it is not always visible. We have to be prepared then to make sure that, that what is visible then is lucid, it's useful, it's relevant. But the fact that the UN resolution, I think, is requesting feedback to the General Assembly on the UN's efforts to reinforce evaluation capacity and so on, I think is excellent, because it will lead to people thinking a little bit about what do we mean by capacity, what capacities do we need to improve, and how can we improve them, and so on. So I think those would be sharing experience, accelerating the development of evaluation capacity, giving evaluation an entry point and a visibility at levels of government and of development agencies where it may not, in civil society organizations, giving it a visibility and an identity which it doesn't always have.
That there's a growing sense of needing to build networks that support evaluation efforts. So already there's some in the global environmental sector. We have recently started an Eval Gender Plus, which looks at women but also vulnerable populations. We're looking very much at setting up a network called Eval Youth Plus, which is going to focus on emergent evaluators, and it's something that we feel very passionate about here in Southern Africa and have been doing for a number of years, but we need to do it in a much more concerted and proper way. And the third one is called Eval Culture, and that network really looks at marginalized cultures and communities who need to have a voice and a stake in evaluations.
We need collectively, and I think that our professional associations, communities of practice, our VOPIs, our institutional platforms on which to engage politically with both commissioners of evaluation, but as well the various institutional stakeholders that have an interest in evaluation.
I had a good look at the tentative draft priorities for the global evaluation agenda, and I found a few phrases that kept popping up. First of all, equity focused, then gender responsive, and there was capacity building. And I'm thinking that these are fairly significant challenges for the global evaluation agenda. Challenges that are not going to be easy to attain in any stretch of the imagination.
In describing key future priorities for 2016 to 2020 Global Evaluation Agenda, creating and supporting an enabling environment for evaluation, particularly by emphasizing the learning aspect conceptualized in evaluation, which is very much forgotten. As the demand increases, there is a need for capacity building of professional institutions, both voluntary and academic, in order to strengthen the supply of services to meet demand-driven evaluations. To provide opportunities for enhancing individual evaluation capacity is also a must. Developing a systems approach to monitoring, learning and evaluation is yet another area to be focused upon. EvalYear can improve our profession and community of practice by promoting and supporting development of national evaluation policies, for which we are focusing attention during the eval year, and by providing opportunities for exchange of experiences. Recognition of innovative, challenging experiences is yet another area. Approach development, integrating methodology, process, then attitudes and behaviors are crucial for evaluation to be effective learning processes.
Strengthening evaluation practice requires action on both demand and supply side. Demand for quality evaluations can be raised through creation of enabling environments supported by national eval policies and establishment of professional eval communities. It is necessary to promote ownership of evaluations by the policymakers and create tracking mechanisms to ensure adequate use of evaluation results. The supply side action would require efforts for evaluation capacity development through national action and knowledge sharing through local, regional and international communities.
Donc, je pense que l'utilisation des résultats de l'évaluation, pour moi, est une opportunité au cours de cette année internationale de l'évaluation, pour faire en sorte que, d'abord qu'il y ait de bonnes évaluations, mais on utilise les résultats des rapports d'évaluation. L'année internationale de l'évaluation est aussi une année peut-être de bilan, parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'activités qui ont été menées antérieurement pour le développement de l'évaluation, mais nous devons peut-être nous arrêter et nous dire, mais au fond, qu'est-ce que nous avons fait jusqu'ici? Avons-nous bien fait? Devrions-nous réorienter nos actions pour renforcer davantage la culture de l'évaluation dans nos pays?
To sum up, 2015 is an extraordinary year. The seeds for a better world in 2030 have been planted. There are great opportunities, but that also means that there are great challenges ahead. For evaluation, I think none of these challenges are easy. We will have to work together. Eval Partners is one of the platforms that brings together a very large number of evaluation professionals and organizations. It is a great platform to continue this conversation and move ahead on tackling these challenges.
Cette année qui marque véritablement une reconnaissance pour la profession en général, et je souhaite à Eval Partners et à toutes les associations qui en font partie beaucoup de succès dans toutes les activités qu'elles auront à entreprendre. Je vous remercie.
I wish you a great 2015 International Year of Evaluation.